The Israelites have been wandering around in the wilderness for a long time. And God's been so good to them. He not only took them out of Egypt, but He sent them quail to eat, and He sent water when they needed water to drink, and He's been giving them manna every morning. Now, manna were little white wafers that were sweet and must have been full of vitamins because it kept them strong. And so God would send the manna every morning, and all they had to do was go out with their buckets and pick up the manna and put it in, and they had all they needed to eat for the day. And on Friday, they were supposed to pick up enough for 2 bucket fulls because on Saturday they were to rest. Well, all of this had been working very, very well, except that these ungrateful Israelites began to get tired of eating manna. And so one morning, Mama got up and she set down the bowl of manna in front of the kids, and the kids said, "Ugh, manna again. We're so tired of eating manna. Where are the Cheerios?" Well, Mama at noon was fixing lunch, and she's stirring the pot, and she's saying, "Manna, manna, manna. That's all I ever get to eat. And I'm tired of fixing manna." Well, Daddy came home for dinner, and he said, "Well, I guess we're having manna burgers tonight." And Mama said, "Of course." And he said, "Well, I'm really getting tired of manna." Well, they were complaining. Who's going to be angry and hurt about that? God. They didn't have to plant the manna. They didn't have to water it or weed it. All they had to do was go out every morning and pick it up off of the ground. And they're not grateful. And God's angry. And so God sent slithery, slimy serpents. They were everywhere. They were in the tents, in the haystacks, in the wells, everywhere. And they were biting the people. And when they bit, the people died. Mama went out one morning to shake the rug off the bottom of her tent floor, and when she did, there was one of those slithery, slimy snakes, and it bit her. And the kids went out to gather hay for the donkey, and there was a slithery, slimy snake in the hay, and they stuck their hand in, and they were bitten. All over the camp, people were being bitten and dying from the slithery, slimy snakes. Well, the people ran to Moses, and they said, "Moses, Moses, please, you've got to go to God and tell Him to stop these snakes, or we're all going to die." And Moses said, "I'll go talk to Him." So Moses went to God, and God said, "Moses, these ungrateful Israelites, I've taken them out of Egypt, I've fed them manna, I've given them water, I've kept their shoes from wearing out, and I've had them win the battles over the enemies, and they're fussing about the manna that I give them every day. And so I sent slithery, slimy snakes to punish them." And Moses said, "Well, God, please, you've got to do something to stop it because everybody's dying that gets bitten." And God said, "All right, Moses, I'll listen. What I want you to do is to make a brass serpent." Now, brass is the color of my watch band, and it would shine brightly in the desert sun. And he said, "You stick this serpent on a high pole that sticks way up in the middle of the camp so that everybody can see it." The sun would shine on that serpent and be bright. And you know what? God was using a symbol that the Israelites were very used to. Because when they were in Egypt for 400 years, the Pharaoh had a big, tall hat. And on the front of his hat was a snake. A cobra. And that cobra meant, "I can judge you. I will either judge that you've been bad and punish you, or I will judge that you have been good and release you." Well, the Israelites are used to looking at snakes as judgment. And so God said, "Moses, put it high up so that everybody can see it." And Moses did. And he told all of the Israelites, "You just look at the snake if you're bitten, and you'll be fine." Well, Mama went to get the pot to get the manna in it, and when she picked up the pot, one of those slithery, slimy serpents came up and bit her, and she ran outside and looked at the brass serpent, and she was well. And the kids went out to play, and they don't have much to play with, but they were fixing sticks and trying to build them like Mount Sinai. And out from behind a bush came one of those slithery, slimy serpents and bit. But they looked at the brass serpent on the pole, and they were well. One morning early, Mama had fixed the manna, and her husband was still in bed. He was a great big fella, and one of these guys that really thought he was macho and tough and bossy, and she said, "Sweetheart, breakfast is ready, come on." And he said, "Oh, I feel so good in my bed, I don't want to get out just yet." And she said, come on, the manna's ready. I'm tired of eating manna." And he opened his eyes and he looked, and at the foot of his mat was a slithery, slimy snake. He could see its beady yellow eyes. He could see its tongue licking in and out, and it was slithering closer and closer. And he thought, if I jump, it's going to bite me, and if I sit here, it's going to get me. And about that time, bang, it bit him. And he said, honey, come quick, bring something to tie around my hand. I've been bitten by one of those slithery, slimy snakes. And she said, that's silly. All you have to do is go outside and look at the serpent. That's the silliest thing I ever heard. That won't save us from snake bite. Get in here, woman, and tie up my arm. And she came in and tried to drag him out of the bed, saying, God said, look at the serpent. And the people next door looked at the serpent, and they're fine. Now, come on, you got to get out and look. And you know what? He died because he refused God's cure for snake bite. Now, kids, when God gives us a cure, we need to accept it. But you know what I want you to think about this story? They got in trouble because they complained. Now, I want you, when you get down on your knees at night and you say your prayers, I want you to stop and think about all the things you're thankful for and thank God for them first. Thank Him for the food that you have to eat. There are a lot of children that are starving. Thank Him that you can go out on the street with your pads on and your helmet and ride your bicycle in the wind. Thank Him for the fact that He loves you. Think of all of the things that God has made that are good for you and thank Him for them. God deserves that thanks. And the Israelites would not have gotten in trouble if they hadn't been so ungrateful.